Manoj Prabhakar had incredible hair, and sometimes that'd be enough. But he could also play. He swung the ball around a little bit, even getting reverse earlier than most non-Pakistanis. But he could bat too. In fact, he opened the batting for India. He was a cricketing shapeshifter. Perhaps his most famous moment in cricket is when he opened the batting and bowling against the West Indies for an ODI in '94. He got smashed with the ball, but had India within touching distance of a win when his teammate stopped batting. They needed 63 from 9 overs, and according to Prabhakar, he made 9 from the 11 that he faced. At the other end, Mankad was apparently told to get as close to the total as possible. He did this by scoring 4 from 21 balls. West Indies won by 46 runs. In that match, Prabhakar bowled 8 overs and made 100. He opened the batting, he opened the bowling. A player trying to be 2 forms at once. In Test cricket, he has done this 21 times. The next best is 14. It's really playing underage cricket to do these 2 things simultaneously. You shouldn't be doing it in a Test, and this many times is taking the piss. But it gave India incredible flexibility, and they either got extra batting or bowling in the team because of it. But despite his incredible hair, Prabhakar was not particularly great at batting or bowling. With the ball, his average was 37. When batting, 32. Our metrics have him as 8% worse as a bowler than other all-rounders and 12% with the bat. Prabhakar wasn't a great player, but he did give incredible versatility. He was not a great all-rounder, but he was very rounded. All-rounders are the toughest players to rate. Often their numbers look uninspiring on both sides of the ball, yet their teammates laud them as near superheroes. They make an impact beyond their own talent just by being fluid. The truth is, for almost every single all-rounder ever, there is a trade-off. Some are great at one skill, but below par at the second. Others are bits and pieces players who are below par at both, but the team likes the overall package. The reason we see so many teams try and find an all-rounder is that they are usually worth more than what they produce. They are cricket's greatest shapeshifters, and this makes them almost impossible to work out their true worth. Watch every match with Nord. Head to nordvpn.com/good areas to get a discount on VPN. Play safe with Nord. The Good Areas conversation never ends over on our live channel. Head over and watch it all there. If you did a Venn diagram of batting or bowling, the middle section would be for all-rounders. Except, I don't think any player in the history of the game is good enough in both skills to get that close. Like, no one in the world would argue that Ian Botham isn't an incredible all-rounder. BP has 5,200 runs and 383 wickets. He averages more with the bat than with the ball. And those who saw him say he could have played for England as a batter or a bowler. The original definition of an all-rounder is someone who can get picked with bat or ball. But is that true? And has it ever been? Botham is a great place to start. At times he probably was both, but across his career he went up and down. His bowling average of 28.4 is good, but compared to other bowlers in his matches, he was only 1% better, so he was almost exactly par. Would he have played for England as a specialist bowler? Yes, but not for 102 matches. More likely he would have been in and out. Yet in the 80s, when England were awful, you could still argue he was their second best seamer. But what about the batting? Again, in the 80s, both have made a lot of runs, but others had stronger records. 9 players scored 1,000 runs at a better average, but he also batted with an all-rounder's freedom, which probably hurt his numbers a little. Alan Lamb is the best comparison. He played 57 matches and averaged only slightly higher. So yes, Botham would have been picked as a batter, but not as a regular. However, in that period, only 2 England batters averaged over 40. So in that weak era of English cricket, Botham could make it as a batter or bowler, but for huge parts of English history, he wouldn't have. He really needs to bat at 5 and 6, and with Brook and Stokes in those positions, he's probably not getting in. His bowling might get him picked now, but a few years back, he wasn't getting in ahead of Broad, Anderson, Wood, Archer and Stokes. In a good Test team, Botham was still at best a fringe pick as a batter or a bowler. Most strong batting sides wouldn't need him, and as a bowler, he'd only fit in for specific attacks. Yet, I say this about one of the greatest all-rounders ever. Botham was less a specialist than a transformer, bending to what England needed, whether as a hard-hitting batter or a bowler leading the attack. England could change their lineups because Botham existed. He added more runs and wickets just by playing. But I also wanted to check the best 3 all-rounders of all time. Garfield Sobers, Imran Khan and Jacques Kallis are all great at one thing, but they're not in a circle with their secondary skill. Sobers was late 20s when he started bowling seam, and he was a new ball specialist, who of course later in the innings bowled spin. Maybe the West Indies try him, but it's doubtful he's a full-time bowler for them. Callis could bowl, but his average is low because of the pitches he played on. It's really unlikely that he'd be a regular bowler in that South African lineup when you had Donald, Pollock, Ntini, Philander, Steyn, Nell and Morkel. Imran's batting was incredible in the 80s, averaging more than 50 for a 10-year period. But would Pakistan have picked a 30-year-old number 6 who couldn't make hundreds? I don't think so. Only Callis didn't transform. In a team with loads of all-rounders, perhaps he didn't need to evolve. Part of the genius of the other two is they mutated into perfect organisms to bring harmony and balance into their 11s. Even when their numbers look great, they're even more important. And if this is true of the greatest all-rounders, what does it mean for lesser players? Sadly, looking at numbers of all-rounders is so different than specialist players. The main stats, outside of raw accounting, used for all-rounders are average differentials. Subtract your bowling average from your batting mark, and then you hopefully end up with a plus, and you're a great all-rounder. There are many issues with this. However, we should all sit back and honour our new all-round legend, Corbin Bosch. But according to this, the second greatest all-rounder in history is Don Bradman, with Alistair Cook's Bob Willis impression that dismissed Ishant Sharma coming in at number 6, and Ross Taylor's dirty offies at 14. So this list is garbage, and the only way to make it better is to look at real all-round. This, and most of the stats we looked at for this piece, has bowlers with 75 wickets while bowling at least 100 balls per match, while also having 1,500 runs, adding 33 per match. So it should be a better way to see true all-rounders and not novelty bowlers and batting greats. And on this first look, it's incredible. Look at Sobers at the top, with Callis and Imran close to him, and Roston Chase all the way at the bottom. That is exactly what you'd expect a list of all-rounders to look like. The two West Indian players should be at the opposite ends of this spectrum. However, I want to focus on another player who performs exceptionally well in this metric, Mushtaq Mohammed. On paper, he looks like the 8th best all-rounder ever, but considering he's not even thought to be the best player in his own family, hello Hanif, that's stretching it. Mushtaq was a fine cricketer, averaging nearly 40 with the bat and 29 with the ball. Those numbers are very impressive. He was a skillful leggy with all the tricks, even a flipper. But Pakistan barely used him. He took 79 wickets in 57 matches. He was like the bowler people imagine Joe Root is, a frontline batter who could double as your best spinner. Look closer and the shine fades. His 29 average was built on dominating a poor New Zealand side. Against everyone else, it was much higher. In his first 3 years, he played 14 tests as a batter and never bowled more than 6 overs. He also barely bowled domestically. A frontline spinner delivers 35 overs per match, or 213 balls. Mushtaq bowled that many in 5 of his 57 matches. The only captains that trusted him were from his own family, Hanif and himself. It was also a strange era. One of his captains, Intikhab Alam, was another leg spinner who batted a little bit. Intikhab was picked as a bowler from the start, while Mushtaq took years for anyone in domestic cricket to give him the ball. Most of his wickets were playing county cricket for Northants. If Mushtaq had been forced to bowl frontline overs, his average would almost certainly have risen. The truth is, his record flatters him a little bit. He was a very talented cricketer who grew into his second skill late, but never got to bowl enough to make a huge impact. Shane Watson is another player like that, though his story was written by his body. A young Watto was genuinely fast, and if not for the constant, omnipresent niggles, he might have been Australia's best all-rounder since Richie Benaud. Instead, he became an S-tier version of Paul Collingwood or Sourav Ganguly, sort of medium-pace, clever, accurate swing, but hardly scary. How good was he? Well, by the differentials, Watson appears slightly positive overall, while Indian legend Vinu Mankad appears slightly negative. But I think that hides their actual shape. Watson gave Australia around 63 runs and 100 balls per match. Mankad gave India 47 runs, but a gargantuan 333 balls. Watson gave you power batting and useful bowling, but not a true 5-man attack. Mankad's batting was slightly weaker, but as a genuine frontline bowler, he gave India far more chances to win. It's a question of what shape your team needs. One was efficient and the other one transformative. Watson helped if your team had 4 frontline bowlers who just needed rest. Mankad transformed the team, giving them the option of having 5 frontline bowlers or deeper batting. So Watson added and Mankad reshaped. And while on batting, Watson and Mankad aren't far apart when adjusted for match and era. The metric is flawed. It rewards position more than production. Sobers looks better because he batted at 6. Callis and Hammond are worse because they sat in Bradman and Sachin's shadow. Aubrey Faulkner batted everywhere and still outperformed his peers by 40% in his matches. And when we talk about the greatest all-rounders ever, he comes up a lot. In fact, if you just listen to me, he comes up a lot. Because he's the only player in Test cricket to make 1,000 runs and take 50 wickets while keeping his batting average over 40 and his bowling under 30. His bowling record is fantastic, but when you look at the advanced numbers, he was about a par bowler, albeit with moments of genius rather than a star. Whereas there is a group of bowlers who are all obviously S tier, are Ashwin, Shaun Pollock, Ravi Jadeja, Imran and Richard Hadley. And you'll notice none of the great batting cluster is here. And that makes sense, as the chance of you being elite at both is almost impossible. However, these numbers are about evaluating the quality of the player as if they were a specialist. Take Trevor Goddard's batting. It's not great, just marginally above par, which was fine because he was a bowler too. By being serviceable with the bat, South Africa could field an extra bowler, and his seam was excellent, 3 wickets per match at an average of 26, sometimes even opening the bowling. And the team lost little with the bat, but gained a lot with the ball, similar to Mankad. Despite his numbers, Godard wasn't a conventional frontline bowler. He was a genuine freak of his time, a left-arm medium pacer who bowled around the clock and defensive as was possible. He was less a bowler than a dam, holding games until they reshaped around him. And when we say defensive, we're not kidding. He took a wicket every 95 balls. No other seamer with 100 wickets has gone at worse than 84. Almost 16 overs per victim. So why did he bowl so much then? Because his economy was the best of any seamer with 10,000. Only one other went under 2 runs per over, and Godard is still miles better. Batters struck at 27 against him for 41 tests, home and away. Adjusted for era, and his was slow, he was 48% better than par at run prevention, and bowled the 3rd most deliveries per match on our list, behind only Benno and Mankad. He bowled endlessly, no one scored, and sometimes wickets came too. Still, you probably wouldn't pick him as a specialist. Just too slow with the ball, just passable with the bat. Compare him with Shaun Pollock, another South African seamer no one scored off. Pollock was a great. If you were picking tomorrow, he beats Godard. This graphic combining batting and bowling has some flaws. It lacks batting strike rate, and it loves Godard for his economy and endless spells. But it does show that they're pretty close to being side by side. But on the basic batting stats, they are as well. So there isn't much between them with the bat. But the real difference is when they came in. Pollock was a number 8 and probably should have been a number 7. Godard an opener. Pollock probably would have been under par at number 6, but Godard was slightly above par at the top. Structurally, Godard let South Africa play 5 bowlers without losing batting. Pollock gave strength at 8, helping teams not lose, but not increasing winning chances that much. At 7, Pollock only really transformed the side if the keeper was a good batter or if another all-rounder was present. To add a 5th bowler consistently, your all-rounder must hold down the number 6 position or higher. Perhaps Pollock could have done that, but that South African team never needed it. A number 8 who bats is useful, but not transformative. It works the other way too. Bat top 6 but rarely bowl, you're not much use. By differential, Wally Hammond is the 3rd best all-rounder ever, but he bowled under 20 overs per match and took less than a wicket per game. He really hardly changed England's chances. Handy, but not transformative. The best all-rounders allow you to add a bowler without weakening the batting much. That's the magic equation. Godard is structurally more round than Pollock, even if Pollock was the better cricketer. But how do we show this? At first, we wondered if it might be useful to look at our players by their batting and bowling ratings. And there should be a few players in the top right, but there aren't. There are players who are above par in both metrics, even if just. A few incredible players miss out, like Faulkner, Callis, and Capildare. Great all-rounders, but not great all-round. Botham, Dan Vettori, and Warwick Armstrong miss out by the barest of margins. But the players who are above par on both of our metrics are Chris Cairns, Shakib Al Hasan, Keith Miller, Shaun Pollock, Trevor Goddard, Imran Khan, Garfield Sobers, and Ravi Jadeja. This feels like a step in the right direction, but this also contradicts what I said about Pollock. He is the only one here who doesn't quite make sense. So while this helps, we know it is a little flawed for our end goal. We need people in the top right corner. So we came up with something else. This is the percentage of times that a bowler delivered the ball enough to be in the team's top 4 most used bowlers for a test. And this is also looking at the percentage of how often a batter was in their top 6 run scorers, because we don't actually have balls faced by everyone. Now we have clear standouts in the top right, and plenty of other great all-rounders take a step back because they're simply not used enough, or they're just handy with their second skill. Pollock, Jadeja, and Imran all take a step back here because they batted low for long periods of times in their career, whereas Miller and Cairns were frontline bowlers and top 6 batters, much closer to our magic zone. But it's clear that we have 3 standouts here when it comes to roundedness. No one was rounder than Garfield Sobers. He bowled so much late in his career that he overcame the fact that for the first 8 years, he never took more than 10 wickets in a year. In 1969, they made him bowl 50 overs per match. He was also the world's #1 batter at that time. In the 15 test matches in the 3 previous years, he averaged 86.65. So he makes sense, and so does Godard. But both of these players lean one way. Godard towards bowling and Sobers towards batting. Shakib, though, is almost perfectly balanced. In 85% of the tests, he bowled a frontline bowler's load. And 85% of the time with the bat, he added top order runs. The only others with numbers even close to that are Keith Miller, Brian McMillan, and Manoj Prabhakar, the man who played Test cricket like it was an under-13s game. Shakib is the most evenly rounded all-rounder ever when we look at what he produced for his country. If we look at his efficiency and advanced numbers, he's around 10% better than his peers with the bat and almost par with the ball. But like Botham, he wouldn't make every side as a specialist. In stronger batting lineups, he might slip to number 7, like Jadeja or Vittoria, meaning he's not quite a specialist. But with the ball, he is Bangladesh's leading wicket taker. Yet his record is eerily close to Taijul Islam, and not that far from Mahdi Hassan Miraz as well. Away from home, he might have struggled to get picked if he couldn't also bat. And let's imagine he played for other teams. For India, his bowling wouldn't cut it consistently. He wouldn't have played over Harath in Sri Lanka. Nathan Lyon or Keshav Maharaj, that's at least debatable. But that doesn't change how special he's been for his nation. What Shakib shows, and what most true all-rounders show, is that having 2 skill changes the whole shape of your team. At one point, Bangladesh carried a specialist number 7 who only batted because Shakib gave them a frontline bowler higher up the order. They've regularly gone in with 5 bowlers and still do it now with Mahdi. For Bangladesh, who have struggled to find specialists, Shakib was their cheat code to patch up their broken system. If Bangladesh cricket had a Venn diagram, he would be in the center. But as an all-rounder, your only job is to make your team better. England used Ben Stokes and Moeen Ali as a combined frontline bowler to give themselves 5 options with the ball and more batting. Pollock, Callis, Clousner and McMillan did a similar thing for South Africa around the turn of the century. A true all-rounder is not just their numbers, it is the effect that they have on the entire team. Manoj Prabhakar was what we call now a bits and pieces cricketer. He wasn't quite a batter and not quite a bowler either. India was more likely to pick him away from home when they needed more seam. His being chosen meant that they could use an extra batter when going for a draw, or an extra spinner without ruining their lineup. In fact, India often played 3 of their all-rounders at once, with Prabhakar joining Kapil Dev and Ravi Shastri. Now, they didn't have a team that could take 20 wickets away from home, but they could use Kiran Moray, their keeper, to bat at number 9 and help draw matches. Manoj Prabhakar's average differential is minus 4.65. However, the extra batting and bowling in the team was worth more than that. Like most all-rounders, he was given jobs he really wasn't up to, and yet he did his best so that other players could prosper. All-rounders are not just the runs and wickets they make. They're also the runs and wickets others make because of them. As Bruce Lee said, be water, my friend. A successful all-rounder will usually start as one thing and then finish as another. Their shape doesn't matter. Their team's shape does. They're not round at all. They're liquid. Are you as chronically online as Moses Enriquez? Then here's another video for you. Or if you also like books and stuff, you can buy my new one on the art of batting. If you loved this video, hit the bell icon to be notified for more.